Patrick Beatty Reviews, the #1 for news. It's Patrick Beatty Reviews, #1 for news. Yeah. Tune in, get up. Yeah, what's up?
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
What is up, my Gagla geeks? Yes, it is time to talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Not just a spoiler-free review. Yeah, we're talking about spoilers. We're going to be talking about lots of spoilers, and I have a very special guest. He's been on the show before. He's on Geekly Goods that you can watch on YouTube. Please make sure that you go follow him. It's Leo. How's it going, man?
Hey, dude, it's good. Thanks for having me back again, Pat.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that, man. It's good to be back and chatting some Multiverse of Madness, man. Got some thoughts. I won't dive into them yet, but got some thoughts about this one.
Let's start with reactions, right? Today, all of the like full reviews were able to come out. This is going to be posted on Friday, so we're talking about Tuesday. What was your thoughts when you started seeing the social reactions come out? Because to me, there's always like a little bit of like terrifying, like emotions when it's like, oh crap, am I going to be the first to post my reaction? And is it necessary? Like, your opinion is not the wrong opinion, right?
Right.
But is it the one that's going to get caught? It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
People are retweeting this for the wrong reasons.
It's like, am I going to get ragged right now? Yeah, I totally get it, man. Like, when the reactions came out, I was wondering just what other people would think about it, because I was wondering if maybe I was in the minority about how I felt. I saw some mixed reactions. I was actually kind of surprised to see some people that like strongly disliked the movie. I totally middle of the fence. I liked it, didn't quite love it. And I saw quite a few tweets that came out like that. And then I saw a few that came out that absolutely loved this movie. And I give all credit to Sam Raimi for making this feel like a movie outside of the typical MCU formula. And I saw a lot of that echoing through posts as well. I mean, lots of praise for the horror elements. The visual effects were highly praised. And I was wondering if there was going to be an overwhelming amount of like positive. And I think we're all kind of on the fence a little. I think they're mixed. I think this is the perfect definition of mixed, because you'll have some mixed reactions that skew more negative or skew more positive. I think you've got a good, healthy mix of all of them from this, at least from what I've seen.
I agree. I think we do have a healthy mix. And I think this is going to give us like good conversation and discussion as we get into the spoilers. But first, I want to make sure everybody goes and follows you and subscribes to Geekly Goods, because your review is already out, your spoiler-free review. And of course, anybody that knows me and loves your stuff, they're going to be subscribing. But the new people, please go over and check that out.
Yeah, come check me out, man. YouTube.com/geeklygoods.
Are we about to do this, man? Are we about to spoil everything about this movie?
We're spoiling. We're diving in, man. We're diving into the multiverse of madness.
I'm like Black Bolt. My lips are unsealed. Boom! And the spoiler's begun. And the spoiler's begun.
Hey, the boom is also a spoiler as well.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Dude, you win. Okay. So how do you like doing these spoiler reviews? Do you like breaking them down like from the start, from what you can remember, and just kind of like give a full detail of the film? Or do you like just like hitting the points that you're thinking of at the moment?
I like a little mix of both. I mean, it's up to you, Pat. It's up to you.
Man, it's not my show. I don't know what I'm doing. We can talk a little bit about the beginning, because it starts quick. Like the pace in this is kind of breakneck from start to finish.
Yeah.
We see a different Strange in a different universe trying to reach out and get this book. He's fighting this tentacle kind of ropey thing with America Chavez, who's first introduced, not really given any backstory for quite a while in this film. Like
a long time.
We'll talk about America Chavez, but he gets killed. She gets sent into a different dimension, or she leaves into a different dimension, into our Strange's dimension, where we kind of start the story. He's going to a wedding to see who's the girl? I forgot the girl's name. To see Christine, who's getting married. He's kind of having a little bit of like regrets of thinking if things could have been done different. Could they? There's a little bit of a scene with Michael Stuhlbarg, who is totally underused, and they just do it again, which is so frustrating. Like, I saw him in the poster line. I was like, oh wow, are they going to give him something more to do? He gets like 2 minutes. if that. But
If
for
that.
have their conversation, take it from there, Leo.
Okay, so just thoughts on this first like 20 minutes. It very is like, as you put it perfectly when you said it's a very breakneck pace. It's just boom, 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 boom. I mean, we go from the America Chavez sequence to going to our Strange's universe within a few minutes. And it's so quick that I kind of wanted to, I maybe wanted a little bit more, maybe to slow things down a bit. And we did for a little, but I think that the first, like that sequence with Defender Strange and America Chavez was a little heavy in terms of like the pace being so quick. I just kind of wanted to slow things down. And I'm like, all right, I want to know like this universe is America Chavez. And I think the film does that like a long time later, like a little too long later, because I'm like, I want to know about this version. Because as we know, the MCU changes their characters. This is an original universe. Well, spoiler drop. I mean, they called it Earth 616. And I'm like, I mean, this isn't quite 616, guys, but hey, I know what we're doing. We're bridging the comics in. Totally cool with that. But I wanted a little bit more breathing time. But once we got to like the monster in the street, I kind of almost thought we could have snipped off the America part and got straight here. And even if we wanted to make a quick flashback of her with that Strange, that's fine. But I just think that was like shoehorned in the beginning a little bit. It felt that way to me. But once we get to the wedding, like I was kind of like, okay, like my gears are turning. This starting to feel like a Doctor Strange movie. So yeah, like I liked it, but just a little rushed in that America Chavez moment.
I agree with you. It kind of feels like, so it starts with this whole different Strange, this whole different universe that you're not used to. So you're immediately thrown off balance for like the entire film. You have that feeling of, I'm not entirely sure like where our footing is in this story. And it keeps jumping to the point where you just have to kind of let it wash over you. You're like, fine, you're going to go with this pace. Let's just let this happen. But then they go right to that fight after the wedding with the tentacle monster. And that to me was the first, or maybe like one of the first parts of the film that made me feel like, okay, Sam Raimi has total control of what he's doing. And this feels exactly like something ripped out of a Spider-Man movie.
100%. It feels like an intro to Spider-Man 2. I mean, it just feels like getting right into the action, get to the character. Like I think it could have started with Strange waking up and I would have been like, holy crap. Like from there on, like I would have been like, okay, I think that would have been a little bit of a clearer opening. But I mean, at least it got our mouths wet, if you will. We got our curiosity invoked for this new character and for the Defender Strange and what's coming up in the multiverse. Because like I know what they were trying to do, give us a taste and then give us the main course later on. But I just think it was a little too quick.
No, I'm with you. Well, and they eventually save that moment. They get America, ask her who she is. Basically, she says that she can jump from multiverse to multiverse, and that something is after her. And a previous Doctor Strange had tried to help save her from it, thinking that he could get this book to do it. But he ended up dying. That's what brought her there. And she's like, there you go, we'll prove it. They just show Doctor Strange's corpse, just like, dead body, right there. That's how. And it's okay. There's your Sam Raimi. We're still going with it. This is your horror aspect, this horror twist. And it was really great, honestly. You've said it too, the uniqueness of this film amongst all the other MCU films. This is the first horror suspense, whatever you want to call it, first darker film coming from the MCU.
100%. And I love the visuals with the tentacle monster, the saw, and like the cool different spells and magic that they use is really cool. I think it's a contrast from, you know, the Captain America movies and the Iron Man films where there's a lot of hand-to-hand, a lot of technology used. Here it's magic. There's a lot of enchanting. Like I love those visuals. I do wish there was like a little bit more like building turny like in the first one, but I mean, they make up for it with the multiversal travel and the several sequences where they're like going through multiple multiverses and it's just changing forms every time. That's so cool. But reeling back into that corpse moment, oh my gosh, like I was like, am I watching a Marvel movie? Like a corpse? Like, what are these kids thinking right now? Because there was definitely a couple of the critics brought their children. I'm like,
really?
This is a little creepy.
How old are
for some kids.
or how old do they look
They
to
look
you?
about like 10, so they could probably handle it. But I'm like little kids that are like into Captain America and stuff. I don't know about this. I might be a little scary for them.
Well, that's what I said in my review was like, I'm not necessarily sure you should bring your kids until you check it out first. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't bring your, this isn't like Deadpool where it's like, you're probably a bad parent if you bring your kids to Deadpool, let's be honest. But with this, I can understand this is a whole continuity. Doctor Strange has been in many PG-13 films that any kid could watch, but these kids are going to get traumatized. Like, I don't know any other way around saying it, especially as we get into the story further. But once they catch America, they realize that some of the spells and stuff is witchcraft. So they go to Wanda. Doctor Strange goes to meet Wanda. Wanda is just in her own mind trying to envision a perfect life with her kids. And she's in this beautiful apple orchard and this vineyard, and she's walking around with Strange. And he's like, I need an Avenger for this. I need somebody that's more than an Avenger that can help with this and help me protect her. And she goes, well, I'll just take care of her. I could take her over and that wouldn't be an issue. That way you can deal with whatever you have to deal with and then I'll have her. And isn't that a great idea? Don't you think that'd be pretty cool? Maybe we could do that. What do you think? And as she's going on, he's like, wait a minute, something hit my face weird. I don't think we're in the right reality. Turns into honestly the third act of Justice League, the Joss Whedon version.
Gosh.
Like, everything is completely red. What just happened? And she's got the Darkhold, and she's just in costume now all the time. And she's, you could tell it's poisoned her. What did you think of the introduction to Scarlet Witch, kind of as a baddie? She the baddie.
Yeah, she's the bad guy. Loved. Look, I was a little so-so about America Chavez from the start because I was like this doesn't feel like the comic book America Chavez, where I feel like she would turn around and punch the monster right in the eyeball. Like that's more in line with her personality from the comic books. So I was kind of thrown off from America a bit. But like once we got to Wanda, first and foremost, Elizabeth Olsen, great acting. I mean, that was some masterclass acting. Like phenomenal. She honestly, I was tricked. So I'm like, all right, look, I thought we were in a flower field too. I mean, look, you had me tricked as well. I also love, this is one of the key moments of the script that I do love is how Strange spells out how powerful Wanda is. I mean, he's like, look, I can go find the guy with the mohawk and the bow or somebody else with a shield, but I'm going to actually go talk to the wizard. So I thought that was really cool to really give Scarlet Witch like a bit of a power level, really. I mean, over all of the Avengers, and later on in the film, we see that pays off for her. But yeah, I like that moment, and I really like the acting from Olsen, and I like that Red Wasteland. I thought it just felt very, very witchish and very enchanting. Like it just felt like evil. Like it just
totally.
And Wanda throughout this film feels that way, and Raimi really does give us this sinister, scary villain that we really don't get. I mean, like, let's be real, like mustache twirly Ultron, like Thanos is more or less has moral reasons for doing this, corrupt moral reasons, but I feel like Scarlet Witch, it's something that is 100% relatable because it's like, okay, a mother and her trying to protect her kids. Totally get that, but it's just too far. It's too corrupt. It reminds me a little bit of Killmonger, where they have a good intention, but it's driven too far, and that's what makes them a villain. And I thought that this was a great introduction to her, and I love that there's no hesitation for her to be like, look, you're gonna see the beast. I mean, if you don't hand her over.
No, not only that, she basically says, I'm playing nice right now. Like right now, we're in the fun time where I'm just asking you politely. You don't want it to get to a point where it doesn't, turn into that. And I have to say, like, speaking on Elizabeth Olsen, I'm sure we might talk more about this, but her performance in this and kind of her character motivations, performance is incredible. Character motivations are interesting in that they're a little bit more simplistic than what they were in WandaVision, as far as it's related to like her relationship with Vision, where her character ended, where it kind of felt like more of a resolution, where now she starts out in the most toxic place that she could possibly be, trying to get her kids. And this is where I was saying in my review, it feels very reminiscent of Into the Spider-Verse to me, with Kingpin's motivations on
Mm.
trying to find his family, and I'm gonna search the multiverse to find whichever version it's the exact same premise.
Yeah.
But for some reason in Spider-Verse, it feels like it was more emotionally impactful. And I'm not sure if to me it was because maybe her motivations just didn't feel like they were coming from a place of being genuine, but more like she's just completely poisoned. What do you think of that?
I so I like the fact that we use the Darkhold and corruption as like
Mm,
a catalyst for her motivation, because I think I would feel the same if it was just like Wanda Maximoff, like, oh, I need my kids. But it kind of to me ties into WandaVision in this way, where it was like, okay, she got a taste, and then she used the Darkhold, and that grip of power and that amount of power has her seeking to have that reality back,
yeah.
because she had that taste, she had the kids. And I think there are a couple of moments where Strange is like, Wanda, they're not real. I think that's what was kind of throwing me off a couple of times, was I was like, well, I'm sure she knows that, but like, do we
I
really
don't
have to
know.
keep telling her that they're not real? I don't know. I think that was kind of what made it feel simplistic to me, because it
Mhm.
was like, oh, okay, well, they're not real. And it's like, well, yeah, but Rhonda had a taste of that reality. And now that she got into the dark hole that corrupted her mind, it, she wants that reality back, and she'll stop at nothing. And a lot of this can be totally blamed on the Darkhold,
Mhm.
but I liked using that as a tool, because if the dark hole was just not involved, it would just feel like an echo of WandaVision. Like, oh, we're
Mm.
back to square one. But since we went through WandaVision, she learned her lesson, but got into that dark hole.
Yeah.
It took control. And I like that. I like that for Wanda's character, because throughout most of the movie, she's been in the background, and then we finally get WandaVision and really open up this character. We see that she's been through so much tragedy and loss. So all of that, plus WandaVision, plus the Darkhold, I mean, I kind of thought it was a recipe for disaster in terms
Mm.
of like her motivations, and like it's just crazy. Like it's like, okay, you take those things, and I can see why she's doing what she's doing, because that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, and then when Doctor Strange goes back to like basically report, Wanda's mad and she's now outside, and everybody had to get fortified. What was the place called? The casual
Kamartaj.
Camertage.
Mhm.
Yeah, the
The
elegant
Sorcerer Palace,
palace,
yeah,
elegant palace. Uh, they all get ready to go. A full army is there, and Wanda shows up and just starts murking people.
wipes.
Really, just wiping people out to the point where immediately when she starts doing this, I'm like, okay, they're not looking to redeem this character at all. Like, and I'm not sure if she's necessarily redeemed in the end, even to me. Like, I think this is the film where she goes too far. And regardless of Darkhold or anything, her motivations and the actions were just so freaking bad. It's just like, oh,
Horrible. I mean,
yeah.
let's be 100%. She's willing to kill another child to get back to hers. And it's like, ooh, that's
Mhm.
not a great trade off. But like I
Point that
said,
was
for
never really
Wanda,
made to her, which I find interesting because that's very emotionally resonant to say, hey, this is a kid too. Like, you
right.
want to kill a kid to get a kid,
And
but they
she's
don't really
totally like, yeah. Like, oh,
she's, she's
okay.
like, he looks grown up.
And I think this deals with a recipe for how Wanda handled all this loss, because it was like, out of every Avenger, at least Strange, at least Christine's still alive.
Yeah.
At least for anybody else, including Thor, Banner, like love interests are still alive, whether or not they're with them or not, whatever. Wanda lost his. She had to put a hole in his head. She says it in the
Mhm.
movie. I thought that was awesome to just call back to that. She had to
Yeah, she's like,
kill
"Oh,
Vision.
you don't know suffering. I've put a thing. That's not the worst thing that's happened to me." Like she said something like
Crazy.
that.
I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, she had to put a hole through a lover. I mean, everything that happened in her childhood with her parents, not to mention she loses her brother in Age of Ultron. I'm like, this is what happens when all this loss piled up with a character whose abilities have been bottled up until now. And now that
Yeah.
she can control them and knows how far the extent of her magic goes, yeah, she's not stopping.
Yeah, I'm with you. And so she takes over this building. She's now got Wong captive. America and Strange were able to escape into a different universe. And then they really just travel through a huge montage of universes. You've got like them as paint, like just the
That
paint
was so
version
good.
of them. You've got a 2D animated version. You've got like it's very quick, and it's a fun little thing. Like for people that love like seeing these weird like multiverse variations of stuff, it was a fun quick thing that again had Sam Raimi all over it, and
All
especially
over
the scene where Scarlet Witch is going through people. It's like an exorcism kind of,
Yeah.
or it's
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2 basically. This woman is possessed, and God help you if you get close to her. Like the minute you see her, you're done.
Yeah,
Like, no matter how
100%. And
fast you
I love that. I mean, this is coming from a character who in the comics speaks the words "no more mutants," and most of the mutant population is wiped out. I mean, this is a
I wanted her
character
to
who's
say that in this.
damn near unstoppable. So
Mhm.
I love this. It definitely echoed like House of M vibes with that sinister motivation that she had. And I was like, Wanda's unstoppable. The visuals, outstanding. Like,
Oh, yeah.
seriously, I was like, this visually might be one of the better in terms of the use of the VFX. Going through the multiverses, I was like, this might, for me at least, is one of the visually more appealing MCU movies. I love that montage of them going through the multiverses. I thought that was phenomenal. Definitely a nice use of slower camera work. Raimi
Mhm.
loves to do that. Which, by the way, the camera work in these dramatic zooms and going up to Wanda super quickly and making the camera almost a drastic piece of the puzzle. So well done. I mean, very, very well done. And I think it's some of the best. So visually, I said it, and then camera as well. I think it's some of the best in the MCU. It just feels like another director's style. It doesn't feel like, and not to say that all Marvel movies are formulaic and but they all kind of run with a formula. And this to me felt like this is Raimi in the MCU. It didn't feel like, okay, this is an MCU movie. They gave it to Raimi, showed up, said cut, and that's it. Like, no,
Yeah.
this feels like his baby. So it's really just well shot, beautiful visuals, and just, yeah, it feels unique.
Yeah, on that camera work, there's one shot particularly with Rachel McAdams where I think she's wrestling something, and she's holding the camera. It looks like she's like, "Ah!
Yeah,
Ah!"
yes, so good.
It's like that's totally what they would do in a horror film.
Yes.
I love that they snuck that in on this. That totally works for me.
Ooh, another one. When Wanda possessed the other universe, Wanda at first, and she's just like looking around and just looks right into the camera. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so scary.
Messing with like multiple scenes layered onto each other too, where you have like Strange and Wanda on both sides and America in the middle, and like it's like you're on an acid trip in a lot of ways. It's like this is just, remember Mandy when they did the they did this, you know what scene I'm talking about. They did a little bit of that, and I was like, this is awesome. I love some of the stuff that they're anything infused with Sam Raimi was really top notch. But they eventually get to this new universe where they want to find their Doctor Strange to try to get a hold of this book to stop Wanda from doing what she's doing, and they run into Mordo.
Mordo. Yep.
Yeah. Chiwetel Ejiofor, he's the Sorcerer Supreme in this universe because Doctor Strange in this universe has died fighting Thanos. That we know of.
Yeah.
And so, Mordo is friends with Strange in this, so they hug it out and talk a little bit. He gives him an update on things, and as he's sipping his tea, he realizes that there's something strange in it.
Strange.
Yeah. Oh, I did that.
Look,
oh man,
Mordo didn't get enough screen time, man. Like
didn't and like this the setup from the first movie I don't feel like has been fully fulfilled yet, and they need to complete that in the third.
Yeah, because this, I'll be completely honest, just speaking for the movie as a whole, Strange gets sidelined in this movie, and I'm like, this isn't really like a companion piece to the first one. I feel like it's almost just like it's almost, I'm not gonna go as far as say it's Avengers or Spider-Man No Way Home, but it's almost like a lead-up movie. We get a lot of cameos, we get a lot, like it's feeling a little too Avengers-y, and I'm like, I need it to be more of a follow-up to that first one. What about Mordo? What about, well, Dormammu, we do see in one of the post-credits, excuse me for jumping ahead, but it's just like, what about Strange, like as a character? I think that he definitely gets some moments, but there's moments later in the movie that don't quite pay off. I'll save my thoughts until we get to that, but yeah, I just wish this felt like Doctor Strange 2.
No, totally. And I think at this point, maybe they gave one moment. It's a scene where Doctor Strange accidentally steps on this pad that's like Back to the Future 2, basically.
Yeah.
Gives him a look at his memories, and he sees memories with Christine, and he's like, "Oh, was there any universe where she thought I was cool?" And America's like, "What?" And she steps on her memory thing. And that's really all the backstory you get of her. That's the end.
Period.
Like, you really have no clue at first that she's one of Marvel's most prominent and first LGBTQ characters that's ever been introduced, which to me, I was like, sure, you don't need to like shoehorn it. You don't have to make it like you're like or something, right? Yeah, it's not earned or anything, but they tell us so little that like anything would have been good.
Like, I don't ever disclose that she's LGBTQ. She has 2 mothers. But they don't ever actually say that she's LGBTQ. At least I don't recall. But I know she had the 2 moms, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a great reference to the character. And they never really do anything other than that. The mothers disappear in the multiverse, which I thought was so sad. Like, I'll save. I'll wait. But
yeah, that's the thing. Like, she's like Miles Morales that doesn't have a backstory.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, she has an ability. She can't necessarily do it all the time. She has to focus really hard, and she doesn't really know exactly what the right moves are. But at the right time, with the right speech from the right white male, she's gonna figure out.
Hey, man, bro, and I'm gonna be 100% like that. This is just not America Chavez's character. She's just not like that. She's very, very determined, but very stubborn and hard-headed. So she has to like learn to work on a team. Like, that's part of like her character arc, is learning to not be the one who jumps in and punches things alone. Like, I was just like, okay, this is a completely different character almost. One that maybe, and I kind of was like, okay, the justification could be this is America Chavez before America Chavez. I can kind of see where they're going with it, but I don't know, man. I was just kind of like, okay, she's a damsel. Like, she's just there to be saved by Doctor Strange and a catalyst for Wanda and to dimension travel. I just felt like maybe this could have been a little bit stronger of this version of America Chavez in a previous movie or a show or something. Like, let her drop in and maybe be that somewhere else, like Hawkeye or something like that. Let her kind of drop in a little early so we get a taste, then give us a backstory here. Like, when she stepped on the memory pad, I wanted it to go into like a full scene. Like, give us a full scene of like her backstory. I grew up learning these things. We really didn't even hear about how she got her powers when they manifested. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, one day a star opened up and my moms were gone. And it was just like, oh, okay. That's rough.
Well, it's really funny that you mentioned that, because there's a theory going around based on when COVID hit, all of the release dates switched up, right?
Oh, right.
So was Doctor Strange originally meant to come out before Spider-Man No Way Home?
I think so. Yep.
So if that's the case, the whole theory is that Ned was never supposed to have any sorcerer abilities, and that this was America that was going to be that character for No Way Home, opening the portals and stuff, which, after we've seen this movie, in the end, the thing she's struggling to do right before it cuts to credits, open a portal. She says, I can make some sparks, but I can't really do that. So I don't know. There's something curious about, which we'll get into reshoots. Can we talk about Wong's wig?
Oh my God, that threw me off so hard. It was like, because we meet Wong in the beginning in that scene downtown. Brother. I'm like, hey, right on, Wong stepped through the portal. We got Wong in. And then the very next scene where they're talking before they reveal the dead Strange corpse, I'm like, does Wong suddenly have a wig on?
What just happened to his hair? His hair is so, this is Henry Cavill mustache bad. What's happening here?
I'm like, no jokes about it either. I thought maybe somebody would like pop a joke about it. No, they just kind of phased him in, and I was like, oh, okay, reshoot.
Maybe that has a lot to do with what you were saying with the beginning part, where it just, a lot of this stuff maybe came from reshoots. A lot of the stuff maybe had to do with like, we have to when a puzzle piece doesn't fit in a puzzle, so you cut off the edges and try to jam it in because you don't want to deal with finding the actual piece. It kind of feels like they're doing that with some moments where it's like, we got to shoehorn in the fact that Spider-Man had already done this. So here's a scene where we're going to say, oh yeah, Spider-Man, and we already dealt with this before when we were doing this. and then Wong has the completely different outfit on.
Right? I'm like, what? That very well said about the puzzle piece, by the way, because it does feel like there are certain moments that kind of were like, ooh, something was left on the cutting room floor with that one.
No, I can see that for sure. Well, once they wake up from their lovely cocktail, they are in these boxes, and it turns out that Christine from this universe is working for the Illuminati, doing research. Actually, she works for the Baxter Foundation, which is our first Fantastic Four drop into this, and then we know what's coming from that point on. Strange is brought in by Modor into the group where he meets the entire Illuminati, which consists of Black Bolt from the from whatever from the whatever show.
I'm gonna be 100%. They changed him up in the best of ways. I was like, thank you for giving him the helmet. Thank you for having him talk. Because that show was terrible, man. That grunting that he was doing in that show, I was like, this is not good.
I didn't watch the show, and honestly, this felt as, I don't know. You could have done any character. You could have done any character because you literally did put every character in.
Well, Black Bolt's ran in the Illuminati before, so I liked Black Bolt being in it, but I liked him not being like the center, because when you make him the star of the show and he can't talk, I'm like, dude, I cannot stand this grunting. Yeah. Thank goodness he's not the main character.
I need to watch some clips of this. I don't know if I've seen anything from Inhumans when it comes to him. I've seen like the long-haired woman clips, and that's about it.
Red hair. Just as bad.
Oh man. Well, who else do we have? We got Monica Rambeau from WandaVision.
Yep, Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. We've got Peggy Carter is Captain Britain, which was great to see that. That was a really fun thing, fun little nod. They even had her say some witty lines that were. I was like, you were bullied as a kid. I don't think that's where you got your line.
And so we saw Captain Carter in What If, and then we see her in this movie, and I'm kind of like, okay. It seemed like in Captain Carter, they were almost alluding to her being a little more physically capable than Steve, because Steve came from being a small, tiny guy, and she was like already in shape. So I don't think this is the Captain Carter from that universe. I don't think, but it's definitely a version of Captain Carter. And then, you got Monica Rambeau. That was so cool to see her as Captain Marvel, because she was in Captain Marvel, and I thought she was so underused. And so I loved getting her back and having her be like the Captain Marvel. And dude, oh my God, Professor X, when he wheels up and the X-Men animated series, just a brief little piece of that plays, I went nuts, man. I definitely was shouting.
And Danny Elfman, let's talk about him. Danny Elfman does great with the score. I really found his score to be very in tune with the tone of what they were going with this. Sometimes it doesn't with Marvel films. Sometimes it seems a little too generic, but this fits right in Sam Raimi's style. So those two always be a pairing, right?
Anytime I see them together, I'm like, yes. And we also get the world's smartest man,
the world's
Reed Richards.
Yeah, played by your fan pick, the one that you voted in during pandemic because he made a good news franchise. It's John Krasinski. Yeah, he came in, and was that suit real or was it fake? I always check the neckline to see if it's a mocap suit, and it looked a little stretchy.
I think it was a little mocappy because of the stretchy arms and.
Yeah, which that makes a ton of sense. But it seems like nowadays Robert Downey Jr. kind of was like, you up this technology so I can wear my sweats and you can put these dots on me and I'll make it work. So maybe they had a real costume in some areas, maybe they didn't. But him and Professor X, to me, were the two big conversation starters, right? Yeah. He's got the most lines during the council meeting where they're talking about there's been a lot of strangers here to try to do what you're doing. They've messed up everything. And we had to kill our Strange because he got too powerful with the Darkhold. And honestly, we lied to everybody in the world saying that he took out Thanos because we needed the greater good. Here's a clip. We're going to cut to Thanos dead on a spike over there. And Black Bolt's going to use his words and blow your face up, which I thought was, what do you think of that cutback?
When he was just like, I'm sorry, and it just blew him up. I was like, holy crap.
To be like, hey, you're killing him, man. You can't use your sympathy to kill him.
Right.
You're cool.
I kind of liked it because I was like, all right, he knew he had to die. Like, it wasn't like he was like backing up and trying to battle against them. It was kind of like, okay, I know I got to take one for the team. And that's very much Doctor Strange, as we saw Defender Strange do. And our Strange is the ideal version of that, where he's not going to sacrifice his morals to do the right thing. So I think that I like that, because it was very much Doctor Strange, a very Doctor Strange moment. The problem for me runs in a little bit in the Black Bolt, because it's like, if you don't really know Black Bolt's abilities, who knows what the heck happened there? Like, it's like, oh, okay, right. Like, because like the reason Black Bolt doesn't speak is because of that beam, because if he opens his mouth, he can level mountains. I mean, this man, his super ability, those supersonic waves are so destructive. So I liked it. I did. I just think for some who may not know, it may be a little bit jarring, kind of like, oh, who's this Black Bolt dude? And yeah, we lose him, 5 minutes later? So
totally. But before we get to that, I got one more thing about Professor Xavier and his cute little go-kart that he rolled in on. He looked adorable when he wheeled in, and that was a real thing, and there was actual it felt like they brought in a real R2-D2 and he was riding it.
He was on that throne. It was like, dang, Professor X, you went from a Mazda to a Hummer, bro.
He kept both hands inside the vehicle at all times, which I thought was just so cute. He looked so tiny and like comfortable inside his little area. I was like, man, how do the controls work? I got so many questions, but this is cool. Whatever. This is the animated series. This is what we've been wanting for a long time. But Wanda starts breaking through. She's manipulated Wong previously over on the other side. They go to this mountain. She sees she has this huge statue of herself. All these guards are loving her, and she's like, oh, this is an altar. I can do the things I want to do right here. Open up the portal. Let's break on through. She possesses a different Wanda that's in that universe, who goes and basically starts wreaking havoc inside the Illuminati headquarters. And so a lot of the Illuminati go out to face her. I think it's Captain Britain, it's Mr. Fantastic, it's
Black Bolt,
Marvel,
and then
Black
Captain
Bolt,
Marvel. Yep.
And so once they meet her, they have a couple exchange of words like, you don't want to do this. I don't know if you want to do this. And like, don't you know that guy's voice can blow your head off in any minute? And she's like, well, how can he use his voice if he doesn't have a mouth? And then it cuts to him completely like the Matrix. You could see that he's already started using his power, and it just starts stretching like a little zit, just being built up in the back, and pop, dead. And then mayhem begins. Tell everybody the gruesome details.
Oh, that was awesome. Okay, so I love and hate that scene. It's such a love-hate relationship with that scene, because I love the gore. I love how intense and just brutal that was. I was like, wow, this is different from Marvel. They went all the way. You can call that whatever Wanda had splashed on her. You can call that oil or whatever from the Ultron bots. Like, no, that was pretty much looked like blood splatter all over. Like, whoa, man. I mean, it was brutal. The problem I have with it is that I'm like, dang, we didn't get no time with the Illuminati. That was it. Boom. Hey, we're in. We're a quick little cameo. Bye. And I thought that's the selling point of the movie a little bit. And not that Strange isn't, but it's like, that was one of the main points of the movie. And we're just like, oh, bye. And all of them die. Like, I was just a little bit weirded out by that. And not to mention Professor X, like, why did he wheel up so late?
Oh,
I was like, okay, that's weird that she wiped out everybody, and he perfectly wheels up right after. And I'm like, wouldn't he be there like trying to mind control her while everybody else is trying to defeat her? I just thought that was like a weird continuity thing. Like, okay, he's not in the hall and the chambers with Strange and Mordo because they're battling, but he's not outside. I just thought that was weird. And maybe I know that they kind of tried to.
He might have taken the advice of Magneto, where he's like, the pawns go first.
Maybe so. Maybe he was like, let me go ahead and let them go on. And
like, I'm having a conversation with this new doctor. I want to see what he's about.
I just wanted. I also, when he went into her mind, I was like, dang, I wish he would have like talked to her, man.
Did the little beams. It did it just like in the animated show.
Yep, amazing, so good. I was like, oh snap! But I wish I just wish we got a line. I can help you, Wanda. I have a school. Oh my God.
She's like 32. You can't put her in that school.
Hey man, he helped Wolverine out.
Take any of them. Take any of my freak kids. You can have those.
Wolverine was what, a couple 100 years old by the time he got to school. So hey, like, bring
what a
Wanda
twist would that be if he just brings up 2 little kids and he's like, take them, just stop this. Like, oh no, what is this Professor X using in his school for? And he's like, building iPhones, and it just cuts to them putting chips in iPhones.
Also, I'm kind of like, okay, wouldn't Wanda take over other Wanda and just exist there? Like, why do we have to go get America Chavez? And I'm like, all right, couldn't you just theoretically take that Wanda over and then be that Wanda?
Well, if you're already there, right? Like, you're right there. You are her. You can feel the same emotions. You can be you've locked away that Wanda from what you see. Why not just stick in that point? Well, it's because you got to kill some people. Mr. Fantastic goes through like those Play-Doh shredders where they turn him into spaghetti noodles. He literally becomes that, and his head pops. It pops like from Kingsman. It was crazy to see that part. Captain Britain literally gets Darth Mauled by the Captain Britain shield. Goes straight through her midsection.
I'm at least glad that they gave her and Captain Marvel some moments to battle Wanda. I think that could have been way longer, man. Like, I was like, no, like, first and foremost, I think if Black Bolt would have been the immediate, like, pop, I think that would have been okay, because it's like, okay, that's how powerful she is. I don't think I need to see her wipe everybody in 2 seconds. Like, I'm like, come on, Reed Richards comes up with a battle strategy. All right, Captain Marvel, you rush in while Captain Britain does this. Like, I don't know. It was just kind of like everybody just boop was gone. And I thought that was way too quick for how quick thinking Reed Richards is. I mean, you got the smartest man on earth. Like, you got the smartest guy and he just dies. Like, I was just like, okay, this doesn't make a lot of sense with that character for me. But then Captain Marvel, I at least was happy that they made that look like at least some sort of formidable matchup, because I'm like, okay, Captain Marvel is powerful. I mean,
but I wish they spoke to each other. No words exchanged.
None.
And there was so much built up with those two. I know it wasn't the same ones, but
nothing. They didn't speak a word. I mean, and even I don't even think Reed really talked to Wanda. It was just kind of like, we got this Black Bolt dude. And he went off. Reed was gone. And then Captain Carter, nothing. Okay, I can do this all day. Love that drop. But then she died. I'm like, oh, Wanda says, psych, no, you can't.
Right. Whoopsie. And then we get to the Professor Xavier part where he goes into her mind. He's in this white void and he's walking. He gets to this big pile of rubble that's probably Sokovia, where she was trapped as a kid, but instead it's the Wanda from that universe that's like, help, I'm stuck here, I can't get out. This is one of the funniest, unintentionally funniest moments of the movie for me, where I actually laughed out loud a little bit, because Patrick Stewart, God bless him, he's 90. Okay, he's 90. So when he looks out and he's like, I can pull you out from under there, and he and he grabs her hand, and it looks like she's holding him up as he's trying to pull her out. I was just like, no, why did you do this? Not this part. And
also,
yeah, go ahead.
Why do we have to keep seeing this man die?
I know, the 3rd time. He's died more than the Boromir.
Yeah, I'm like,
Sean Beam. He's got a record with Sean Beam now as far as deaths in film.
Why we gotta keep seeing Sir Pat die like this, man? y'all breaking my heart. This is a second Xavier death we've had to see. Like, I'm just like, come on, man.
This one was
come on, y'all.
This one was a rude one, unearned, and like the third one was like, this wasn't what we wanted, but at least like it made sense to the story.
Yeah.
Second one, this is a beautiful death. Logan is a fantastic story. It has a great ending for his character. This just made me mad. I was like, no.
It was just like his neck just snapped, and I'm like, you mean to tell me you bring in Patrick Stewart to essentially be the Professor X from the animated series, like, and embody that character and make us just feel like on cloud 9, and then snap his neck?
Yep.
Like, I was like, that's brutal. Like, at least he didn't die. Well, the Logan one was brutal, but I mean, at least that was earned.
No, I totally agree. We're smacking mics all through
Yeah,
the
man.
idea.
I'm
My
like,
mic is ready to go. We're so into this.
love it, dude. Love it.
Dude. Okay, so anyway, now Wanda's going after America, who's running with Doctor Strange. He has a quick fight with Mordo, and they're like, "We're never gonna be friends," and they run away from each other. Then, as
Hated
he's
Mordo in this
leaving,
movie.
yeah, he's leaving with Christine. They get one more portal to go through, and this is a dimension that just looks dilapidated and destroyed at this point. This is where they're thinking the Darkhold could be. So they go to meet this Doctor Strange in this dilapidated, half complete. It looked like to me in Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, what Meryl Streep's house looked like at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, this thing's destroyed. This is not for anybody to live. And there's a decrepit Doctor Strange that had the Darkhold take hold of him. And basically, is this Supreme Strange? Is that what people are calling this Strange?
Sinister Strange. I mean, I
Third
think
eye
it's
makes
that
them
what
one.
if. Yeah, I think it's like that what if Strange, the one that was in that episode where the universe gets swallowed up. I think. I don't know, but I will say I did want to touch real quick on Mordo. I was like, man, they made it kind of seem like he was going to be a companion and help Strange, or maybe they will fight together, and it'd be kind of like a nice taste before we get back to the Mordo in our universe who's after him. I was like, man, I would look forward to that. But the fact that he's like the same Mordo, I thought was just kind of shoddy, because I mean, the other Stranges are different. I'm like, how come the Mordo was the same? I don't know. I just thought I didn't like what they did with that character. And then we get to this point, and I had like I said, I had a love-hate relationship, because love the Illuminati. When we introduce him, I'm like, oh my God, John Krasinski's here, Professor X with the theme, and then we kill him off so quickly that I'm just kind of like, I think I was in shock by this point of like, damn, I just saw Professor X's neck get snapped.
Still traumatized, like still trying to process what you just saw. And maybe that's what will tip this over if I watch it a second time, kind of like knowing the big surprises, if that will help me be like, okay, was it earned? Because that's the question I kept having, was like, were these earned moments, or was this just suspense for suspense sake? And
fans
part of that makes it okay. I don't know. But after he finds out that he's the bad Strange, he tries to fight him. They do a thing, and I think he kills him at this point. Does he kill that Strange, or does he just escape?
Yeah, that Strange gets murked, I think.
I believe, yeah. And from there, he goes back to Christine. They had a little conversation about her. Like, throughout the whole thing, there's kind of this little underlying, like, you could still be with her.
Right. Which is not really touched on enough, in my opinion.
No,
we get to this point where, sorry,
she gets more, but not enough.
Yeah, we get to this point where emotions are running high, and I'm kind of like, okay, you guys, I know you guys know each other. I know both of you have histories with each other's universal counterpart. I get it 100%. But we don't have enough moments with the two of you for this to really make too much sense for me, because I'm like, all right, the same thing happened with this Christine and that Strange. I get it. I see that connection. But give us like a couple of more breadcrumb moments of like when she was like, Steven, and pulls out the watch, and that's how he activates the turn signal. I thought that was cool. I'm like, give us a few more beats of that, of like them just kind of like being vulnerable with one another. Like another moment was when they all landed and America had like maybe a bit ahead, and he like checks on Christine, like, are you okay? Like, give us some more vulnerable moments like that, where the two of them kind of start breaking down and are like, it actually could have worked out between us, maybe. Like, I just think that wasn't an earned ending for the two of them, with how little we got of the two of them in the movie.
We only have one minor flashback of seeing them in a relationship that is working out, right?
Yep.
And you need to know that, and you need to feel a good working relationship that can work if you want them to try to repair what's happening. And they just haven't done that yet. So you're still kind of like, yeah, will they or won't they? I don't care. Like,
you're 100% right, because the first Strange, really, we see the breakup. I mean, he's being kind of a cocky prick in the beginning. She's still with him, but then they break up once he snaps on her, and it's just like, oh, this is where we left that relationship off.
Yeah, and they just they don't do a lot to pick up with it. But still, Rachel, no, is it Rachel McAdams? She does a lot more in this. She does have a lot more to this story, being along for the journey than what she had in the first one, where she just wasn't really involved until he shows up. She's like, "I've been stabbed," and then she got to repair him. But he decides to take the Darkhold now, and he needs to possess a Doctor Strange body. Well, just so happens he buried a corpse at Earth 616, so he reanimates his own corpse and sends him to go and fight Wanda to save America. And this is where it was like I was delighted by all of this. I had so much fun with Zombie Strange doing all of his weird stuff, and Sam Raimi just like hitting every organ piece again. Oh, by the way, there's a music sequence, like a fighting sequence, but with musical notes between the two Stranges. And the way that they visualize that and the way that they use the sound design for that, it's one of the coolest parts of the whole movie.
Yeah. 100%. Like when the music notes are, especially when they're turning colors between Strange, and it kind of starts out in this more dissonant sound and they're scattered, but then once they actually put them together, they piece together as chords. Like that was just beautifully done.
Mm-hmm. I love seeing the notes and like how they were different songs in each one. Like they all had like, it was like dueling pianos. Have you ever been at like, piano bars? It was like one of those that was going after each other, but with like gothic horror film tropes.
Yeah.
But they have their fight. Eventually Wanda does like she fights with America. America finally gets her power because Doctor Strange says that one right thing that suddenly makes her be able to have the power that she has.
I mean, he might as well have just told her, just believe.
You can do it. And then that's all she had to do. But
Captain Planet
and shows Wanda the kids again. And this is the same Wanda that she's been possessing. So she's like, oh crap, run or try to fight her. The kids are just terrified now. So it's just like in Spider-Verse where Kingpin sees the family and they're like, what's happening? Same thing happens with the kids. And she's like, oh no, this shouldn't have happened. And then decides I've got to sacrifice myself to save the universe, and collapses the spell in on herself. And Wanda's dead? ?
I don't think she's dead. I think we saw like a little red flash, and I was like, she ain't dead. Okay, so we get to this point, and I was like, dang, I really thought she was gonna say no more multiverse, and that's how we would get the mutants and Fantastic Four. But I was wishful thinking. But this sequence was super cool. I like seeing the villain when they have this like concrete plan that they're like, I'm going to get what I want. And they finally get it right in front of them. And it's like, actually not what you needed. Didn't go how you wanted it to. And I love that. I did not hear what that Wanda said until a friend of mine told me after. And she said, they will be loved, the two kids. I was like, that might've been the one gripe in that scene for me. I was like, huh?
Yeah. Well, obviously, lady, that's what we kept trying to tell you. Like when Wong was like, isn't it enough just to know that there are kids somewhere and that they are happy?
Right.
Like, oh, I guess they're happy.
With another Wanda, like that's not even you. That's some other woman that they're very happy with. I do like the kids did great, by the way. I was like, wow, look at these kids killing it. But yeah, I do like that. Like she was like the witch and the evil one, and they made her realize that she is a monster. And it was like, okay, that made her finally wake up and realize. I love that this played completely opposite of how the trailer made it feel. Like I was thinking in the trailer, like, oh man, that Wanda that's got the t-shirt on must be an evil Wanda, whereas the Wanda that's kneeling must be a good Wanda. So I like that it was actually the opposite, and it was like, like just shattered some expectations.
No, totally. Well, and her character, it really comes to a point where, like what we were saying, if she's going full baddie and she's doing all the things where like she's killing people, like people have been murdered, and you don't really come back from that. Like eventually the body count takes its toll on you being seen as a hero, and the only way for you to go out is to self-sacrifice if you are a true hero. She is. She's just mental.
Because it's like, if you think about it, okay, we can count them up. It's like you probably could just say like some of the top wizards at the Convertage, probably about 20 or 30 of them. Then you got the Illuminati, all them Ultron. But I mean, it's like you snap Professor X's neck. Like I'm like, all right, we've gotten to the point where it's like Wanda, and I love Wanda. I mean, so I love Wanda. I love the Scarlet Witch, but yeah, like when she started caving it in on herself, I was like, this is kind of the fitting end for this character because there's just no coming back from that.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to predict too much, but I will say I think there's a likelihood that because Wanda brought back Vision, Vision could bring back Wanda.
Yeah, I think that's
that could be the thing that like makes them finally come together and be that power couple, and then we don't have to do any more dramatic stuff with their like that's a fully realized character for both of them, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant note. Like bring her back with Vision. He's the one that brings her back. So then that way, gosh, there could be some balance here because I mean, WandaVision, and the thing about WandaVision is it was like, okay, this is morally corrupt as hell. So we already kind of started at a place that was not great, and then we just kind of trickled and got worse and worse and worse and worse. And yeah, so it was a fitting in for Wanda. Even though I love that character, I love Elizabeth Olsen and what she has done with this character. Her acting is great, and visually the cool like spells and stuff, so good. But fitting in for the Scarlet Witch. And maybe she'll come back as like Wanda Maximoff. You know what I mean? She won't necessarily be the witch anymore.
It could be, but I agreed. Her performance, this is probably one of her strongest performances as the character from WandaVision to this. Wow, what a character
what an arc.
Yeah. And I'm very excited to see really what the future holds in store for that character. The movie ends with Strange thinking things are cool. He's good with Wong, and as he's walking down the street, he gets a third eye suddenly, and then it kind of cuts out from there. 2 end credit scenes. First one, Charlize Theron shows up as who? Who is this
Clea?
person?
She's a wizard from the comics. She works for Dormammu. So when they're like opening that portal, looked like they were going to Dormammu's world. So I was like, oh, okay, that's been like a rumor floating around for a while. So I was like, oh, okay. And she is his love interest. She does, I think, if I'm not mistaken, she becomes Doctor Strange eventually. So
oh, really?
Yeah, we may be setting a baton pass on. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, she'll be a integral part of the next movie. And since his Christina's married, that opens up some kind of love interest. Oh, you know what? We totally missed a character who was early on in the movie and promoted as a Funko Pop, but barely got any screen time, and that was Sarah, the black sorcerer who was helped Wong and actually destroys the Darkhold copy. And I was like, wow, what a way to just brush that character to the side. We got all these toys, theories, all that. That character was just in and out.
Yeah, she did not last very long, but she gave herself a valiant death. Like it was a very 100%. Good like. But again, like who? And then before you got an answer, she's already dead. And it's like, oh well, okay. And now we're moving on.
Because I was thinking, I was like, who's this Sarah character? And then I seen that wizard. I was like, oh, there she is. Thought maybe we get her running through the multiverse a little bit. No, they said psych.
Nope, not really. And the last credit scene, this is a callback to in the movie. You guys have probably been wondering, where's Bruce Campbell in this? I thought he was going to be in the Illuminati. Who's he was supposed to be in this? He is just a hot dog vendor, but it's not hot dogs. It's pizza balls. These, and it's not like a deep fried thing with pizza in the middle. It's pizza on the outside. Somehow perfectly made, wrapped in a ball. It looked delicious. Like I cannot wait for the binging with Babish recipe to come out of that. I'm going to look that recipe up and try to make it. But the callback is the Doctor Strange put a hex on him so that he would be hitting himself constantly for about 2 weeks, and it finally stopped. And then he looks at the camera and he goes, "It's over," and then the whole thing ends.
That was hilarious. So I'm not gonna front. I was waiting for Deadpool to pop up in that scene. I was like, maybe Deadpool would be like, hey, what you doing? Or something like just pop up. But
there wasn't a wall break, wasn't there? Like Scarlet Witch at one point right at us. And that
camera.
Like, oh, what?
That was actually terrifying to me because
when
she was
the picture moved. It scared the crap out of me too.
Yeah. Oh man. And just Raimi's signature style of making things feel absolutely horrifying. The jump scares when Wanda was like chasing after them through those sewers, it looked like that was creepy. And when she just like pops up and oh man, he really made her evil. Like he made her sinister. There was no hokiness about it. And hey, look, nothing against Thanos or any other villain that Marvel has come up with, but this is definitely the most brutal of all of them. Like this is an unhinged look at an unhinged villain who just won't stop. Like I'm like, hell, I was shocked Wong survived. I thought Wong was done.
Yep. Nope. The only thing that didn't survive was his hairdo, but then it would come back, but then it wouldn't, but then it would come back.
Yeah, it was like flip flop. Oh, that's a reshoot.
It's like when they use the time stone for that apple and they keep changing it. It's just like pop, pop, pop.
Like,
Well, I think we both can agree on a lot of this. We had a really fun time, and Sam Raimi as a director, perfect choice for this. I don't think if Scott Derrickson, he's a great director, and I'm very excited for Black Phone, but I don't think this would have been the same film, and that tells me right there that this was worth switching over, and Sam Raimi's DNA is throughout.
Well, what's weird is like the rumor was like he wanted to make it more horror, and I was like, whoa, well, what was he going to potentially do? Because this was very horror heavy. So I'm glad it was Sam Raimi and nothing against Scott Derrickson. I just think Sam Raimi has a stronger voice, so I liked Sam Raimi's style in this. I love that scene with the souls from the damned was crazy. Cool. I mean, just phenomenal. Like the arms and him using those demons. I thought that was Sam Raimi to a T. And I love these bits of style and voice throughout the movie that you can clearly see that this is a Sam Raimi movie. Thought it was the best decision.
Yep.
Great decision.
I totally agree with you. I don't know, just to wrap it up, I should say, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10 over on my thing.
Well, look at us, same rating.
Was it the same rating? Oh, yep. Well, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, same rating. Oh, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Were you disappointed that anybody didn't show up in the movie? And even if you weren't disappointed, who did you think was going to show up that didn't?
Oh, okay. So there were so many theories, right, at the beginning for who was going to appear and things. I honestly had a weird idea that Ghost Rider was going to show up somewhere. I don't know why, but I think maybe something had come out where there was a Ghost Rider. The Tony Stark and Tom Cruise thing that kept floating around was always kind of like, I don't know if they'd ever get him for that. He's too busy yelling at people on the Mission Impossible stuff. Anything else. Who was the other person? Was there anything with Wolverine? I know Deadpool. Were you disappointed with Deadpool?
Oh, I'm not disappointed necessarily. Like if people don't show up, I'm not necessarily like, oh no, knock it down a point. But like I definitely expected Deadpool. I thought maybe Hugh Jackman would squeeze in there, but reaching. And the Tom Cruise Iron Man. I don't think I was ever on board with that one, even though there were so many rumors and potential reports and whatever. I was like, that's a stretch. Like
Mr. Fantastic stretch.
Yeah. Well, see, and that was like their big one. And I'm like, okay, we got our one. We got Krasinski. That was like, and Professor X had already been revealed, but we got Krasinski. That was like our one. Like that was like that was it. And I think I was okay with that.
I need to know he's for real the one. You know what I mean? That actor is gonna be in the Fantastic Four movie. That this wasn't like this is like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man versus Tom Holland Spider-Man. They're different actors, but the same. Like there's precedence for both sides of this. They could do the same actor, and I don't think anything will be confirmed at least for another 2-3 weeks at best, because they're gonna have a lot of no spoilers for a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you think Krasinski is gonna come back? If I'm being honest, I think this is one and done for him.
Yeah, it just felt, I don't know. It depends on how they want to do it, because didn't they have a line where Doctor Strange like, I thought you were from the 60s.
Yeah.
So are they going to go back to the 60s? And we only see John Krasinski as the old version, which will only happen right now. But with Fantastic Four, we're going back to the 60s. I don't know. It's very interesting to see now that they've officially brought in Fox's properties officially into the MCU. Not John Boner. We're doing this for real.
Oh, the Ralph Boner was such a big
Ralph
middle
Boner.
finger.
No, man.
Sheesh.
Well, any final thoughts about Multiverse of Madness before we close out?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on your channel. It's always good talking to you, Patrick. I mean, seriously, man.
We're gonna plug your stuff. We're gonna plug it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just wanted to thank you. But also, my last thoughts. Really like this movie. Especially talking about it, I really enjoyed a lot of the horror elements. I love Sam Raimi's style, and I love Wanda. Like, I think Elizabeth Olsen was great. The writing for Wanda was great. I love the abilities, like everything about and surrounding that character, loved. I just definitely had some gripes. America Chavez, again, that just doesn't feel like that character. I know what they're trying to do, and it works for Spider-Man because Spider-Man did start out as a teenager, and so does America, but America starts out bold and brave, and Spider-Man works his way into it. So it works in Homecoming and No Way Home and things like that, but I just don't know that it worked for America Chavez for me, especially because she's a damsel, and Spider-Man was the first time we see him, he swung into a bus. So the America Chavez character didn't work for me. Some of the pacing didn't really work for me. And then it just felt like Strange got sidelined. Like him and Christine's story just kind of takes a backseat to everything else going on. I'm like, yo, they confess their love to each other. I mean, he said he loves her, and I'm like, but this ain't your Christine. Like, it was just a lot. But otherwise, lots of fun.
Lots of fun indeed. And I'm with you on all of that. The only thing that I think I'm including with it's my bigger gripe is that there's a level of story arcs that we've already seen done better in multiverse films that are also Marvel properties.
Yeah.
So I just hope that maybe when they continue on this journey with the multiverse, that first we need a through line. I'm sorry. We need a through line for these films because it's starting to get a little bit overbearing not overbearing. It's a little bit jarring trying to piece everything together. Like, is Selena Meyer going to show up? And is Julie Louis-Dreyfus going to show up at the end of this?
Right.
What is this whole situation there? Are the Thunderbolts even existing anymore? Because the actor that William Hurt tragically passed away.
Yeah.
What's happening with Ant-Man Quantumania? Like, who is the main person, right?
Right. It was like the catalyst of this phase.
Give us a through line. Pacing wise, I do wish there was something more. Some of these characters just don't feel like they were characters, but more of they were plot devices to move the story to one
America
point or another.
Chavez.
Exactly. So overall, though, I still think for a Marvel fan and for a Doctor Strange and Sam Raimi fan, definitely you got to check this out. This is the first horror film from Marvel, and I think they do a fairly good job at executing it, albeit a couple things here and there. So leave us a comment and tell us what you think about it. Leo, you got to go check out Geekly Goods. It is he's always putting out content. He's always working so hard, and he deserves your subscription. So please go support him, and always check out my stuff on patchbaitreviews.com and ABC4 Good Things Utah. And that's all for this. Leo, you rock, my man.
Hey, you rock. Thank you so much for having me on. And dude, I'm gonna go see this again. I wonder, do you think on a rewatch you'll like it a little bit more? I'm wondering if maybe I'll just be like a notch, like you said, knowing what's gonna happen with the Illuminati and stuff. Maybe I won't be as attached. That was another gripe. The Illuminati. Sorry to drag it a little, but
how dare you talk more about the thing we're talking about?
Right? Like I'm like, I think maybe a little more, like from a 7.5 to a 7.75.
Okay. Yep. I think there's a chance that it could move up a little bit, but I think there's also a chance that you could double down on some of the stuff that you had issue with, where you're like, oh man, I was really hoping that there was something I missed with this, but it really just it doesn't hit the way that I'm hoping. There's some points for that, but I mainly just want to go to get back into the fun, and I think that's what's going to be the main overarching theme of this, is that it's just it's fun scariness.
Yeah, 100%.
Nice. Well, thank you everybody as always for watching, and we will see you at the next review.